This is 665.66 UHMR ChemRat Radio, coming to you live tonight from Mama Kaz's Noodle Shack on sublevel 163, home of the best corpse noodle half bug ramen in the galaxy.
Live underground.
As always, I am Ryan, your numero uno Goblin King, and I am joined by my partners in crime, Marky.
What's that?
Beast.
Hey, everyone.
And joining us today is our special guest back from assignment on the icy plains of Fenris. Kevin, tell us, is Fenris the vacation destination they keep promising?
Yeah, it's really nice in the summer.
That's a lie. Yes.
I mean, I bet it would if it had summer.
No. So Fenris has a really weird orbit. Yeah. So for most of the year, it's fucking super frigid, and then it gets like summer, and like all the volcanoes erupt, and it turns into a hellscape for like a month.
I've heard it rivals Vietnam in summer.
I thought that was Vulcan,
right?
No, Vulcan
is not hot all the time.
It's not nocturne. It's always
hot and volcano-y.
All right. So although I personally started off a little bit more on the competitive side of Warhammer 40k over the years, I've really kind of, I know, right? settled into enjoying the hobby side, the lore side, the kitbashing side. That's kind of where I am now. How about you guys? Where did you get into the hobby, the game side? How did it come?
I never did any of that. I never did any tournament stuff. I was never about it at all. I got into it just because it looked cool.
Jump straight into the modeling side.
Yeah, basically, yeah, pretty much. I mean, looked at it, knew that it involved building models, and then started there and started reading from that point. But competitive is not, I can't stand it for that reason. I do not play for competitive reasons.
I actually am the same. I was pretty much a hermit for the first, like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years of my warhammering. Is that what we call it?
Warhammering?
Yeah. For my warhammering, it was pretty much just my
warhammering.
Yeah. It was my wife. Yes, we were married. Yeah. It was my wife and my brother, for the most part, just playing each other over and over again. And then every now and then, I think towards the end of my hobby warhammering-ish stuff, I started to play like some buddies and whatnot. But yeah.
So you had family murder time.
Family murder time, yes.
Yeah.
Family murder time.
Strategic family murder dice.
Yes.
It's a good old strategic family murder dice. So you got into, would you say that you got into the hobby side, the painting side, the modeling side first?
I jumped in 100% into the painting hobby side. I bought maybe like 1,000 points of Space Marines and instantly painted all of it.
Holy crap, man.
Yeah.
I still haven't painted my Eldar.
Yeah, that was back worst. In my Sally days.
I'm repainting him, technically, but still.
The funny thing is, I started with the Assault on Black Reach box, which is Ultramarines against Orcs.
Right.
I actually started, converting all those Ultramarines to be Salamanders. So I actually got a little bit of converting experience in that too.
I was actually going to say, there's a pretty good chance that you've seen one of my first painted armies, because I sold the majority of my Dark Eldar stuff to our buddies. So if all the older, you haven't played her yet, they say if she ever brings out some like old Dark Eldar fully painted, those are my old ones.
Yeah, I haven't yet. She pretty much sticks to kill team.
How'd you get into it, man? Well, I mean, we know that you got into it from the lore side, but did you?
Well, it was lore and models. It started out as my friend showed me his kit. We kind of went over this. My friend showed me his kit. Was like, hey, you build models. Check out how these things look. They look dope. And I was like, hell yeah, they do. And then I bought them and I built them. And I was like, this is the coolest shit ever. And then none of my friends bought them, and he never bought any more. So I had nobody to play with.
So I got a question for all of y'all.
Then it was lore and Dawn of War.
Yeah,
happened to come out. Dawn of War got announced very shortly after that, and I was like, oh, cool. This is that thing that I wish I had friends to play with, but look, now I can play against the AI.
So to segue from what Kevin was saying about how you and your buddy both bought that, how long did you go after buying all of your models and your army? Did you go to play your first game?
Oh,
yeah, it just got quiet.
less than a week.
Less than a week.
So me and my buddy Gabe bought 2 of the, I can't remember the name of the box set, but it was Space Marines versus Dark Eldar. It was a 3rd edition box set. He bought a box. I bought a box. I gave him all the Space Marines. He gave me all the Dark Eldar. We sat down at his house over a weekend and we built everything. And then Wednesday we held a tournament at the store because we both worked for Wizards at the time.
Right. Yeah.
So we held a tournament at the store, and that was the first time I played with a full army. The figures that I owned before that, like I had Warhammer stuff, and I had like played with Warhammer 40k stuff because I started playing with it when I was like 12 or 13. But it was a lot more like we've got figures that we can use in D&D or in this sci-fi game or our own bullshit version of Warhammer 40k. My first like actual competitive play experience was that was it.
5 days.
5 days, really?
5 days.
Built everything.
I bought a squad. It wasn't a full army, but it was a squad of infantry, which was like Tau infantry. It was like 12 dudes, I think.
Yeah, 20 dudes, old school.
Yeah,
it was a box of 20 guys.
Yeah. So it was a box of 20 dudes, 3 crisis suits, 6 drones. And that was built, painted in 5 days because I bought them on Tuesday. I bought them on Tuesday, built them by Wednesday night, painted by Friday night, and then Saturday I was at my buddy's place and we played a quick game.
That's cool.
Oh, they were not painted well.
But
they were
painted.
They were literally 3 colors.
My stuff wasn't painted well either.
Yeah, they were literally 3 colors.
Most of my guardsmen are like 3 colors plus a few detail nonsense. But
how long before you played?
I managed to play 1 game probably 4 years late after.
Holy crap!
But
dude.
It wasn't with my own army. Mm-hmm. As I had previously mentioned, I had lost that army.
Oh, you're Eldar.
Yeah, that's right. Because you used to have Eldar
Battle Force box.
So you bought this with your buddy, built it?
No, he bought it with his brother. Showed it to me. I went out, saved up all my lawn mowing money, bought my own Eldar Battle Force box,
and then they never played.
And then he never got more after the split with his brother.
Right.
Like they just weren't really into it. So, and then my other friends were like, I don't have that much money to spend on something like that.
Gotcha.
So eventually I was at a house party with some friends. We're all nerds and they broke out the Warhammer. They're like, hey, you like to play Warhammer, right? And I was like, I don't know how to play, but I would love to play. And so I got to play as the orcs.
Oh, hell yeah.
In the Assault on Blackreach box.
Hell yes.
Against my friend of a friend of mine who was playing the Space Marines. And it was great. I got my ass wrecked.
Yeah.
All the Death Copters just got shot out of the sky.
The Death Copters were all right.
Wrecked.
Back in fifth.
Yeah, your first time though ever with your own army was against me and Mark, wasn't it?
Right. And that turnaround was
that was quick, I thought.
Yeah. From the time that I then got the models, I think I bought them, built them in a day, and then painted them all in the next like 2 or 3 days. So less than a week.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
So I lied, first of all.
Because I went easy mode and I bought the Star Collecting box. So I got a tank, an infantry squad. I bought an extra infantry squad. And then, there's some heavy weapon stuff in there.
Okay.
So I kind of did that all at the same time. And
speaking of Start Collecting boxes, that leak that came out like a couple days ago.
Oh, about the Orc boys?
2 fucking Start Collecting Orc boxes like ready to go. And I'm like, God damn it.
Dude.
Wait, is there a new Start Collecting box?
So before we get to that, I want to share my story.
Yeah. But we got to come back to that because
he said Start Collecting. Go.
Let me. I want to share my story. You guys.
Did anybody else want to interrupt Mark?
No. Stop. All of you. Stop.
Hold on, Mark. Is it from that book you're listening to?
Stop. No, but we're going to get to that.
All right. Yeah. So what was your experience? What was your turnaround?
I finally get to share my experience.
Fluffton Paradise.
So, Fifth Element reference, if you don't know. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, watch it because
That's just how we interrupt each other.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So I was like, am I going to get another one? No. All right.
I think the joke played itself out.
I know. We don't want to overplay it. So I bought the Assault on Blackreach. I lied. My wifey was not my wifey at the time. She was my girlfriend. We bought that Assault on Blackreach box together and I put the models together. I was on shift work. So I was working nights at the time. So it was kind of shitty, like having to wake up, put models together and then go back to work.
Yeah.
Especially, I think I just got on the night shift at the time. And it took me about a month to put all the models together. And it took me about another month to find out that one of my coworkers actually plays. He played Imperial Guard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
While I was in the barracks, Put all this stuff together 2 months. It was about I think it was 1,000 points. It was all the Assault and Black Reach stuff plus a Land Raider. So it was probably like somewhere around 1,000 points. Put it all together, painted my first Land Raider. It was horrible. Everything was ugly. I tried, I don't know if you guys have ever tried edge highlighting, but it sucks. Especially when you're first
edge highlighting. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you don't know that there's such a thing as thinning your paints. So you can only imagine.
You ended up with speed bumps.
Yeah, you can only imagine trying to.
I'm so glad you said thin your paints, and that reminds me. I'm so glad that I saw thin your paints mentioned so many times. In the Facebook group before I painted my first set of models. Dude. And that way, when it came time for me to paint my first guardsman, I was like, "All right,
brother, do you still love me, brother?
No neck."
When it came time, none of my models looked like that. Not a single one of them looked like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the stuff I made when I was a kid looked like that.
Yeah, I still have some of those models.
But that was always with the tester's little glass bottle.
Oh, okay.
Oh, oil paints.
Well, and it was
I
oil
made that
paints,
mistake.
and that was all. That's all hardcore.
And there's a way.
There's a technique.
There's a hobby technique to use oils on Warhammer. I've started to mess around with it a little bit.
It just
pain in the
takes
ass.
effort. Yeah, yeah. And but those were on model airplanes and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's
Lowriders.
Different. Yeah, you used to build lowriders. You know exactly the little paints I'm talking about.
Everything.
Using a spray. Yeah, spray.
You got a little mini spray booth.
Was it at least was your spray booth at least ventilated, or were you just in there? As
No,
a little
I was
kid?
straight up huffing that, dude.
Oh damn, bro. That explains a lot.
It does. I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot.
There's more than that though. that probably explains me.
What's your favorite flavor of lead?
Pink. Oh, you were asking Mark. Sorry, sorry, Mark.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll take it. Good to know.
Purple. If you have to know,
and if you did Victorian pink.
Victorian.
You guys are all wrong. It's blue is the
1943. All right, guys. So 40K is a pretty in-depth and extensive game. Multiple armies. There's more than 30 years of lore that you can explore, as Kevin's a fan of saying, starting wherever the hell you want. But it's not all the property offers. As we kind of just went through, there's an extensive model line that can be enjoyed from a hobby side. And in some cases, if you have a specific model for the tabletop, you might have to engage a bit more on this actual hobby side to get that fielded. A lot of people, it's kind of like an icebreaker. A lot of people bring up, I think I'm not 100% sure, but there's a couple of Space Wolves units that they're in the codex, but there's no model for them. And a couple of Catachan units, they're in the codex, there's no model for them. So it happens from time to time. You kind of get to get a little bit deeper into the hobby to get what you want for tabletop. Even when it comes to playing just on the tabletop, it can be much more rewarding and immersive to see fully painted and based models. And this is probably where the introduction to the hobby side happens for most new players. After you've assembled your army, played your first couple of games and gotten toe deep into the lore, normally that's about the time where people slap some paint on their boys. I personally find the painting side of the hobby to be very peaceful and almost zen-like most of the time. I made the mistake of completely restarting my entire freaking collection and stripping a bunch of stuff.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I was like, I've done it.
We've all been there.
But right before we started playing and streaming, so
I mean, if I had those Eldar, but they were never painted. I lost them before I painted them.
Before then.
I redid my entire Tau army.
I redid all my salamanders.
And knowing how bad I was at painting, that's why I never painted them. As a child, I was like, all right, I'm going to hold on and not paint these till I learn how to paint.
As you paint more, you only get better.
What's your painting workflow? What's everybody's painting workflow? How do you do single model? Do you have a process? Do you batch paint?
So everybody, from what I've gathered from talking to a lot of people, because I've had people ask me how I paint. Everyone says I'm a pretty okay painter. I don't agree. I've seen some paint jobs that are just beyond me. I don't know how you do that. Everybody has a different workflow. Not everybody has to follow the same workflow. I've suggested it and people just completely ignore it, and that's fine. It's whatever you're trying to get out of the hobby. The hobby's its own thing, right? You're enjoying the hobby just as much as you enjoy playing the games, just as much as you enjoy, reading the lore.
But you got a green player in front of you.
Right.
They want to know how to start. What would your suggestion for a painting workflow be?
I would ask them what they're trying to get out of their hobby. If they're trying to be the best painter there is, That's a different workflow than if you're trying to put 1,000 points of guys on the field next week.
Okay.
So if you're trying to put 1,000 points of guys on the field next week, what I would say is, okay, well, you should probably get familiar with batch painting. You should grab one model, finish it to completion, make sure you like it. If you like it, take notes for everything that you did. So, okay, I did base color black. I did zenithal highlighting, which is like shading of gray. And then, okay, I painted all the silver on him. And then I did all my
like a recipe list.
Exactly. Yeah. So that workflow is just like a recipe. You're reverse engineering whatever you did when you were painting.
Okay.
And when you do that, okay, you grab the other 9 guys and you do the same thing. So you paint them all black. You zenithal highlight all gray. You paint all the silver accents on them. You wash them. And then you start doing all the other details. And you just build that workflow list. And then by the end of the however long it takes you to paint it, you'll get faster as you go. You'll have 10 guys done 100%. And it's a lot faster than painting them all one by one, because when you do that, you're dipping your brush to clean it off for every different color. You're cleaning out your airbrush if you have one. You're waiting for paints to dry. When you do this, paints are drying as you're progressing through the paint job and whatnot. So I would suggest that for a lot of things. Unless you're trying to become a pro painter, then don't listen to anything I just said.
I don't know. You're pretty damn good, dude. You're at the level where people in this podcast would pay you and have paid you to paint their units. So.
Don't do that. I don't have any free time. Don't do that.
Tom,
don't give me money. I will not paint your stuff.
Tom, what about you?
Pretty much if somebody was coming in, getting into the hobby, even if they were wanting to become a professional painter, more often than not, if they already have kind of an idea on how they paint because they've done it before. Anybody getting into Warhammer, pick 3 colors. Pick 3 colors to make your primary color, your secondary color, and then black. And black is your placeholder. Black is boots. Black is belts. Black is guns, helmets.
Yeah.
Black is the color that later you can come back and change.
That goes with everything. Yeah. So you have your primary and your secondary color. And those are, what makes your army unique. I like that. That's solid advice.
Yeah. So I say you pick 3 colors and that you get started. And batch painting, if you're doing a horde army, if you're doing anything like that.
That got me through 120 boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna end up painting the same unit more than once.
Yep.
And and you can change. That's the cool thing about having the 3 color is you can change it up. You can have, color 1, say you pick like green and purple. Well, you did these 10 guys green and purple. You can do these 10 guys purple and green, or
literally
green and purple,
everything,
or green and purple. Yeah. So, you could change it up if you want, but you keep those 2 primary colors. Cause that's the other thing is then you can come back later. You can add more detail. You could take away detail. You could spray paint them over again. You've not wasted a lot of time. It gets your army painted rather quickly. It's not perfect, but it's enough to get onto the table.
I was gonna say, you're pretty much talking how to get them tabletop standard.
Yeah. You get them tabletop ready so you could play the game so you could tell if you like it or not.
Right.
Because if you're new into the hobby.
So I meant, sorry, just as a quick aside, I did mean to mention it kind of up top. No veteran player is going to shame you for bringing gray pieces to the table. Absolutely we all understand that you got to get a couple of games down. You got to kind of figure out your flow. You might not know.
I will shame you.
I was going to say
not a brand new player.
If they're your friends, you're going to get ribbed.
Oh yeah. We'll rib you for it. But even at a game store, if people at the game store know you, you came in, say you come in on a Tuesday and you watch Tuesday night Warhammer games and you're like, this is fucking dope. I'm going to buy myself some Primaris. I really like the Iron Warriors, not the Iron Warriors, the Imperial Fists, but I'm not sure if I want to do Sons of Dorn. And you go home and you assemble everything and then you come back and you're like, all right, cool. I'm going to run them as Ultramarines today. And you're like, oh, I didn't like how that worked. I'm going to run them as Imperial Fists
as
next
long as
week.
you build them,
no one's going to give you crap if you haven't painted them immediately.
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that, as long as you put in some effort, to play the game, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to put in some effort. You come in,
absolutely.
you come in with a bunch of bases and you're like, oh, these are them. I'm not going to play.
We've had that experience.
Yeah. I will not
from experience.
I will not do that.
Yeah. We've had he who shall not be named because I don't, because his name escapes me right now.
I can't remember who he is.
I remember, but he used to bring like soda cans and stuff.
Nice.
No, he literally brought like pictures.
Oh yeah.
Oh no. So we've done theory games. Sorry, Kevin. I know we've done theory games.
All right.
We've done theory games where we've like
so ready to talk.
you know the like D&D miniatures that it's
the little cardboard cutout ones.
Yeah. We've done that to just like, do I want to add this unit to my? But that's like two guys sitting at a coffee table, and the coffee table has no terrain. Yeah. And we have our open codexes.
So the caveat to that. Exactly. Sorry, Kevin. Again, I'm sorry. I know.
I'm not sorry.
So the caveat to that is that he did his entire army like that. It wasn't just a unit. It was the
entire freaking army.
Yeah.
And like on a normal game.
Yeah.
No,
like,
see, it'd be different. Like if I wanted to try out like a 6 Sentinel list or something, and I made 3 of those or something to throw. I'm like, all right, for one game, I just want to try this bullshit. And then, played it out for one game.
Yeah,
if I showed up, 3-4 weeks in a row with that, like,
that's the problem. It's week 4 that you're running it. Come on, buy the models.
Exactly. By that point, I should have bought either more Sentinels or printed, alternate Sentinels, or come up with a different plan.
Or just figure out how to bash that cardboard to a point where it looks like Sentinel. And there are people that can do it. And I'm really impressed when I see it. I'm like,
some impressive paper craft work.
I was going to say, why are you putting that trash on the table?
Now that I have the fucking speaking conch.
That's my Sentinel.
As soon as I sneeze and your Sentinel falls over, though, I'm going to be like, dude, that's paper. What the fuck?
Yeah. But actually, bringing us back to subject, since I have the speaking ability now,
Kevin has the speaking stick.
Rolling off basically what Tom said it's funny because we didn't pre-plan this at all, but that's exactly what I did to build my army. When I got my guardsmen, I was like, all right, so I'm going to use the basic, basic military colors, OD green and tan. And I base coated them black primer so that their boots, belts, webbing, pouches and everything.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Like almost word for word what Tom was saying. All that stuff can be left black until, because I was like scraping the money together to do this. I was like, all right, I only have so much money. So I was able to go in and buy 2 brushes, a thing of green and a thing of tan, and the black primer.
Hell yeah.
And then I had to wait till I got paid again to go buy brown and, things like that.
Yeah.
So then I slowly bought 1 or 2 colors at a time as I decided exactly what colors I wanted bits to be.
Paints are expensive.
And in the beginning, for my first army, I kind of wanted to keep it GW official paints.
Oh yeah.
Just because, like, I don't know, there's just something about being able
soft spot for being official.
Also,
then they're nice. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Citadel paints are nice.
They're pricey, but the paint goes on real smooth. I'll tell you that.
Way better than testers, which is all I had before.
Exactly. The paint goes on real smooth. So like, it's kind of worth it almost. But also then when I go into like the community on Facebook and people are like, oh, let me see your this unit for inspiration, I can throw it up and then I can name all the colors that I put into it.
Oh yeah.
And people really appreciate that. They're always 100%. Like, oh, awesome, I have all those colors, or cool, now I know what I need to buy. Like things like that. So people appreciate being able to list them off. So like what you were saying, make a recipe.
Yeah, recipe sharing is pretty big.
And then another thing, like what Tom was saying, for another unit of guardsmen, I flipped it. I went tan and green instead of green and tan.
Yeah.
That was when I got
the units.
I got another batch of guardsmen and I painted. I was like,
didn't have to buy new paint, didn't have to do anything, but they are different than the other. New
paint, and that was when I was like, oh, I got some reinforcements. These guys have different uniforms. And then it kind of added to my lore, like built, compounding on my lore that like, oh, the rogue trader got more guards, like scrapped more guardsmen, bought them from the Munitorium, and then added them to her personal army. So, and then it was like, so that's why their uniforms are different. It kind of makes, you can build some lore out of it.
I like that.
So I'm going to blow everybody's mind here. And I'm not going to take the do what you want Zen approach that everybody's kind of bringing up. I'm going to tell you right now, base everything in gray. Don't base it in black. Don't base it in white. There's a color theory reason why. You're going to use lighter colors from the lighter side of the color wheel, color theory spectrum. It's very difficult to paint yellow on top of black or even red on top of black. You're going to have to put more coats on. And same thing happens if you're going to be going for a darker tone, if you're going to be playing a lot with the Grimdark style of painting or anything like that, as you get into painting your darker tones onto it, if you've got white, that's more and more layers to get to that rich dark color you want.
I agree.
So
100%.
there's a saturation level, and I will tell a new player right off the bat, buy gray primer. Prime your units gray. You're in the middle of the spectrum. You're not going to have to push yourself either way. Now, there is a difference with that.
I hate gray primer. I literally have to say this because I just used it and I decided I would never use gray primer ever again. It might have been because it was the super light gray primer.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking of more like Battleship gray primer.
No, I don't even, I don't even use a primer for my gray. I found this spray paint, like a tagger spray paint.
Okay. Just
like a legitimate, we make it for people who paint on the side of buildings.
Oh, okay.
Like a specialized tagger spray paint. And there is a gray from that line that I absolutely love. That is what I use to prime with.
I'd be willing to try it again in spite of my never touch gray primer ever again policy.
Well, that's the thing, Kevin. You're also using darker colors. So
it's
when
a lot
you're
of
trying to paint
tones and things like that.
Right.
Trying to paint
so you want to start black.
Right. And that's why when I painted those 2 chimeras that you got me, that like I showed them to you afterwards, like I fucking hate this gray primer bullshit. It's like, it's so hard. Any tiny little like gap in some of the detailing, the gray primer shows through an earth tone. Yeah. And it's like obnoxious to try to get rid of.
Yeah. I also think it depends on the project you're going to do, which is where I was going to hit. I'm going to start working on my Black Legion here probably in the next month or 2. I'm going to prime them black because their armor is black.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So there are cases where I'm going to do it, but I will tell new players, stick with the gray because it's going to help you figure out your color. And the other thing that I also tell new players is paint with the largest brush in your set. Do not paint everything with the detail brush.
100%.
Do not bust out the detail brush or start using the detail brush until you got to like paint eyes or you're cleaning something up.
Yep.
I can line and edge highlight with my largest brush because I forced myself to paint with my largest brush.
I painted my first Lehman Russ using entirely the regular GW base brush.
Yep. I'm sorry.
Oh, like I said, I was poor. I didn't have the fat brush.
I was actually going to say
I went and got that for this.
Never use a tank brush though.
For the next, I got like the big fat wide base brush.
Oh my god, dude, the tank brushes suck balls. But yeah,
but it was doable, but not advisable. My lines came out really clean. You guys remember that when it came out? You're like, oh, this came out really good.
It just takes forever.
It took a while, but I put on Starship Troopers, and what's better to paint Imperial Guard than Starship Troopers.
You also have to pick. You also have to kind of pick along those lines to wrap up painting a little bit. You also have to kind of pick the units that you want to stand out. Like a tank, you're going to paint differently than a rank and file. If you have, you have one, or well, in your case, you've got 3 or 4 or 6 tanks, but you've got like 70 guardsmen.
I show up with minimum 60 plus officers. So it's like just 70 baseline troops. Yeah.
And but like I'm going to paint a storm surge at a much higher level of detail than I'm going to print, than I'm going to paint a fire warrior.
Absolutely. All of my guardsmen are not getting eyes.
Yeah.
Billy got eyes.
My drones are literally one color.
Yep.
They have one color. They have one bit of paint on them. The rest of it is the normal gray.
Yep. The only other thing that I have to say for
that's fine because they're chaff.
Exactly.
Yeah. The only other thing I have to say for my painting technique is the way that I do recipes is a little different. I lay my bottles out in a line, the line that I painted them in, and I take a photo with my phone.
I do that too.
I don't write my recipes down.
Yeah, I take a picture.
Yeah. And keep in mind as you're listening to this, I actually do have an education in illustration. I've got a degree in illustration and art history. So I'm going to say things every once in a while about color theory and color wheels and stuff.
You're talking shit right now, right?
No, it's just,
your mom went to college.
It's not, it's,
because I don't have a diploma. Yes, Mark.
Well, I mean,
you got a high school diploma, right? Because you said diploma, not degree.
I'll have you guys know that my mother is an artist. Therefore, I know everything he talks about.
My brother's an astronaut.
I'm just as smart as he is.
What does that mean?
But what the point that I'm getting to is that if you're coming into Warhammer right now and you're hearing us talk about hobby stuff and you're hearing me express strong opinions about color theory, I'm not the normal person.
He's pretentious.
Yeah.
You can address me as Ryan's rank.
I was gonna say we got Dependopotamus Tom.
As Ryan's what? What is Ryan's what?
As Ryan's rank.
You could address
me as Ryan's rank.
Oh man, I really hope that our listeners.
I'm buying that as a fucking bumper sticker. I'm gonna make you have it on your truck.
No, we cannot explain that. If you, we apologize if you don't understand the joke. Just pretend we didn't have this conversation.
Just Google it.
Don't do that.
So even though I brought them up as a pair, basing is kind of.
You're welcome.
That was
Jesus,
a good one.
Man. So even though I brought them up together, basing is kind of a separate thing from painting. And it can also be as detailed as you want or as not detailed as you want. Back when I started, it was pretty common to have a green painted base, even the rim, and then just some flocking on top of it. That was it. Everybody had green static glass bases.
I still have a flock.
It was actually kind of, in my opinion, I thought it was nice that everything kind of matched.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't match the field they were playing on necessarily, all the pieces matched, and having a uniformity is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it
did look a little tacky though. It did look like all you needed was
100% retro.
So I've got some old Skaven models that we're showing right now that actually have that old green with just some static grass on it. Yeah, green grass, man.
If you're wondering what Ryan's
high
talking
tides
about,
forever.
We're actually starting to record our sessions on video, and we want to try and bring that up for our
Patreon
plug.
If you join us on Patreon once or twice a month, we will have some video content drop for you guys of us talking around a table.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, give us money.
I love watching me talk around a table.
Don't say that.
I would like money.
Good luck.
As you can see, if you're watching, oh no, but they won't see if they don't Patreon yet. Never mind. I was going to show off all the
give us money to
expensive equipment that we need to pay for somehow.
They could, if they do chip in, if you so choose, you can see some of the equipment that you would then be reimbursing
that you're helping us pay for.
Regardless,
you can see my fat ass breathing heavily into the mic over and over for an hour and a half.
So even though
Sorry, Ryan.
So even though these bases are super simple, that was pretty much my first big jump off into hobbying. I started to play around custom basing using stuff like sticks, small rocks, crushed coral, sands just to make different effects. I even really dumbly got into 100% carving all of my bases out of green stuff for a chunk, which was dumb. But there are a lot of easy ways to get into basing. Cork is real easy.
Yes.
Sand is real easy.
Yes.
You can buy hobby sand pretty cheaply. And these are things that I would tell you, go to Michael's to buy cork. Go online to buy sand.
If you happen to live in an area where they have a model train store, go there.
Go there.
You'll find everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Model train people are crazy about.
Yeah. That's the money right there.
A lot of wargaming companies will sell you sand. A lot of wargaming companies will sell you cork.
I'm sorry. Don't do it.
Don't do it. You're paying a lot of money for it. The exception for that
it should be.
The exception to that is Vallejo has started to make little clump bushes.
Oh, those are solid.
Those are solid.
Those are solid.
That's like the big tray, right? It comes
yeah,
in
it's a huge tray.
Yeah, I use that for my orcs.
I don't know. Well, I mean, Citadel has that texture paint.
The texture paint.
I really like
That's
that.
what I
like
use.
those two.
All the brown basing that's on mine is the Citadel texture paint, and you just put it on with a little plastic.
Man, I remember back in the day when you just bought whatever the brown was.
Glue, brown.
Just bought the brown Citadel paint they had, and you mixed in sand, and that was your texture paint.
100%.
Those word bearers.
Idea.
I'll throw up some word bearers stuff. That's how I painted
salamanders.
those.
I mixed black paint with sand, and then I made like volcanic lines.
My Tyranids are that texture paint with rocks.
Actual rocks. I've done actual rocks.
Kitbash Base was that Sentinel when standing on the little boulder.
Oh yeah.
And that was, I used the Citadel texture paint that Tom brought up. I spackled it all over the base, and then I put a little dabble of glue and found a little chunk of bark.
Bark's another good basing material.
Because I stuck it on there and I primed it first to turn gray. because I had the gray primer. It's one of the other reasons that I hate gray.
And we'll talk a little bit later when we get into terrain making and some of the other supplies, but realize basing is pretty much what you want it to be. It's
also important now. Before it wasn't important,
which pisses me off.
Yeah, this is Tom's
I'm a big base guy, and Tom's not a big base guy.
I think you should have the fucking choice.
Yeah. I fully support some of Tom's theories on why basing is bullshit.
Yeah.
I like tying my game together. I
like telling a story from my army.
I cannot stand it when a base like for me, I like join me.
No.
And revolt against Games Workshop.
I understand why basing is important. I think it's cool to have something to show off your army and that they all look like they're in character rather than
the reason I personally like doing it is because you can tell a story with your army.
Yeah,
the diorama part.
If you want to make mini dioramas, that's cool. Yeah. I think that's great, and I have nothing against that.
But you want the choice.
But I want the freaking choice. Yeah, don't dock me points because I choose.
Sorry, playboy.
To have black bases.
Base your models.
Well, that's my thing. Is like for me, right? I don't want to have to glue rocks to my base when I just want them to have a plain black base so I could play on any board and they don't stand out. Like these ones where they have grass and then they're playing on a snow planet.
We came up with a back door, right?
They're clear bases.
No. You paint your bases black. Like so you're like, oh, they're on a black planet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say there's painting your bases black. And you can put a little bit of texture into it
not
so
even
it
that.
cracks.
Not even that.
I've seen that. And the other thing I've seen is, and you've done it a couple of times, the clear bases, the acrylic clear bases.
Yeah. That's my FU to it.
Yeah.
The clear base is literally my FU because it's still not painted.
Part of me wants to get, if I get more Sentinels, get clear bases for them because that would be cool.
It would be.
Like I feel like any walker vehicle or hover vehicle should be on a clear base.
Well, and they used to be. I mean, like Devilfish and drones, they're on clear bases.
All those Eldar that I got a long time ago, every one of the vehicles
they still are
clear.
They're still on clear hover bases.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but a lot of the time, I'm like, why is that okay?
Because a lot of the times with a clear hover base, you're measuring from the hull of the vehicle, not the actual base.
No, that is incorrect when you talk about drones.
Drones, yeah, and the new jet bike rules are the same.
That's what I'm saying.
But
isn't it everything with flying?
Most things with flying.
That's what I figured.
The custode bikes specifically, the custode base.
But they always have a clear pillar, and all like the drone thing is a clear base with a clear pillar.
Yeah.
The little jet bikes were a clear base with a clear pillar.
The custode bikes come with an oval base or a clear base. I get it. I understand the argument for clear. I personally like to do diorama basing for my
whole argument on clear is the fact that, with Games Workshop now in 9th edition, you are given 10 points if your army is painted and based.
Yeah.
And so my thing is a clear base doesn't have to be painted. So why does my black base need to be painted?
So another reason that they did that was because they're obviously advocating for the tournament scene. The tournament scene is what makes them money. So what they're doing is they're regulating how you get points for painting, because normally tournaments would have some kind of sub thing that they would do to give you points. So now that GW is like, you know what, let's make it easy across the board. You get 10 points if you're battle ready and based. Yep. So you get 10 points instead of having TOs, tournament organizers, and other people try and regulate it in their own certain way and have it be all kind of
different. They set a standard.
Exactly. So in this way, it's like, hey, you're painted, cool. Here's 10 points.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we were going to get into next. Was as these guys both brought up, tournament play has kind of changed that. And I understand the reasons for it. The thing that does suck, though, is when you're a new player, specifically, you might have a gray tide, or when you're somebody like me who spends a lot of time kit bashing or specifically posing your army. I don't want to kit bash for 25 hours and then paint for 25 hours.
My argument to that is that if you're taking that to a tournament, that's your fault. If you're playing with your buddies, I'm going to give you 10 points, Ryan. I'm not going to be like, nah, sorry, man, you didn't paint those badass dinosaurs you're making.
No, I hear you. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is if you're getting into the game now, if you're going to go to a local gaming store tournament, you're probably not going to hit this stuff.
One of the guys that I follow on YouTube, one of the like little side points that he hammers home is that he has 2 armies. One of them is a tournament army, because when he's playing Imperial Guard in a tournament setting, especially because he's mostly an infantry commander, he'll show up with 200 men. He needs to be able to pick them up and chuck them in a bucket as they're just getting murder off the table.
A lot of men.
Oh, it's a ridiculous amount of men. It's a huge size.
Are they in a submarine?
No.
They're not seamen?
No.
Damn it.
Not to butt.
No.
But that wasn't even funny, Ryan.
No, come on. You were reaching
come on, try harder than that.
Not in the butt.
If I'd said Navy personnel, you could have maybe pulled that joke. But no, these are just guardsmen. But anyway,
They are part of the Imperial Navy, goddammit.
No.
I know they're not. I just,
we went over this already.
Kevin, no.
We went over this.
it's like, Ryan, you made me listen to all the lore. You're wrong. I know.
Not only listen to it twice.
That's not my fault. Cogitator Mark fucked up.
Mark.
That's why it's no longer Cogitator Mark. Now it's Servitor Mark.
Sons
Okay.
of bitches. Yeah, I failed.
Like he's got an all metal army.
Right.
And that is his like personal channel when he does battle reports and stuff like that.
Right.
And then he has his tournament army, which is a bunch of, plasticadians painted up to be the regiment that he wants. But they are, as he literally, his direct word is pick them up, chuck them in a bucket.
Yeah. That is a different level of painting.
He knows that they're going to get chipped and they're going to get
I do that with my boys. Yeah.
And they're just simple 3-colored,
Clear
bloop,
coat.
bloop, bloop, done. Because if he brings his metal Mordians, they're going to get bent, they're going to get chipped, and they're metal, and they're going to obliterate the other models in the bucket while they're all rattling around. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're getting an army to paint it for a tournament, get an army and paint it for a tournament. Don't expect it to be your Instagram show army if you're, speed running your models into a bucket like that. Yeah. If you have Custodes, then get one little briefcase.
This just hammers home how much of a not tournament player I am. Is I was thinking like, oh, yeah, I really want to get new knights to paint, right? I want to get more knights to paint because if I take them into a tournament, I don't want my characters to die.
I'm telling a story, people.
That's how I think of it.
I'm telling a story.
Of it as like, oh, I don't want my nice models getting chipped. I think of it as, no, those are my characters. They can't die.
Yeah. And I'm kind of on that level too. I paint relatively slowly because of all the kit bashing and specialization stuff that I do.
We know.
And I don't want to rush my paint job because I'm trying to show off whatever the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
And there's no problem being that person as long as you understand the expectations of tournament play and you understand the expectations.
Yeah, you can't be that guy going to a tournament and be like, well, that's preposterous. Why am I not getting my 10 points?
Yeah. But I would like to say, guys, that we are straying a little bit into our garage league versus tournament league discussion, which we will have on another podcast.
Yeah.
So next up is one of my personal favorites. And these guys have already given me a little bit of shit for it. And I give myself a lot of bit of shit for it, but I'm a huge kit basher. Yeah. So kit bashing is a term that's used to describe the idea of mixing different stock or off the shelf kits together. This can be two different units from 40K or 40K model and an Age of Sigmar model, or even parts from different kits from a wide range of companies. Most recently, I've been kit bashing my Exodite Eldar up to table standard. So I've been using the existing Eldar line and a lot of models from the Age of Sigmar Sepharon line. But kit bashing can be a lot more simple. You might want a certain weapon on a specific model like Kevin did, where you're just replacing out a shotgun. You're replacing a las pistol with a shotgun.
When I decided to promote Billy and give him a better weapon besides a shitty little las pistol, we cut off his hand and we put on a Deathwatch shotgun.
That was
and this is sorry.
No, I was just going to say to back what Kevin was saying. We were playing a game Deathwatch versus Imperial Guard, and he beat my Deathwatch. So we were like, okay, this is a training simulation, Kevin, because if you beat us, we will give you, a prize. Yeah. And he ended up beating me. So I was like, hey, your prize is my Deathwatch shotgun.
And so that was Billy got a little gift from the Deathwatch.
His commander. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is probably as you guys just illustrated, probably the easiest type of kit bashing, the most common type of kit bashing.
Narrative-based kit bashing.
And a lot of times your rule book will give you a sergeant and the model comes with a pistol, but the sergeant has access to a list of war gear.
Oh man, they just now released the Cadian upgrade thing that's going to be coming out. Of course, they also price hiked it. So we got double price hiked for 9th edition. Awesome. Thanks, G-dubs.
But round of applause.
Yeah, thanks. Golf clap. We've been able to take bolters and plasma guns.
Yeah.
Bolters on our sergeants and plasma guns as our special weapons guy for years. But it's been how long since that Cadian kit came out? And there's no plasma gun in the kit or a bolter.
this is the intro that a lot of people have to kit. And kit bashing can be that simple. So along the lines of kit bashing, most of us keep a bits box. I have a lot of bits boxes.
Always save your bits.
Yeah. You can also order or trade for bits online or in your local group.
You can score a sweet deal. I got some good bits from Ryan. I've got good bits from Mark.
Yep. The other thing that comes into
kit bashing.
The other thing that comes into kit bashing a lot is brass rod. We mentioned it last episode because I had that old all metal Abaddon model. Sometimes when you're trying to fix pewter to pewter or pewter to plastic or plastic to pewter, it just doesn't stick. Or you've got you sheared off a hand and you've got another really flat surface. That's where pinning and brass rods come in. You can order brass rods online. You can find them at most hobby stores. You can find them at hardware stores if you
have Amazon. Amazon's probably a good resource.
You just take a little pin drill. You drill out a 1-2 millimeter hole. Yeah. Put that brass rod in there. Make sure it's nice and set. And then when it's nice and set, you drill the other part and you fix them together.
Yeah, just like the little the thing that you use to drill your barrels.
Yep.
If you do that, same drill.
Yep. And then the other thing that a lot of players do, Tom and I will be super familiar with this, is magnets and magnetizing. All those Tau weapons.
I actually was against that. I instead of magnetizing all my weapons, I just made more crisis suits.
You just bought twice as many crisis suits?
Yeah. I mean, mainly because one, I wanted them, but two, I got into the whole aspect of like, no, these ones are dedicated to this weapon.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Like they,
I like that you as a player also made the commitment. You were like, these are the weapons I've chosen. This is what they have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, oh, this can be whatever I want it to be this game, which I'll admit that's kind of what I do. But at the same time, it's because the Imperial Guard kits, like we just mentioned, don't come with all the weapons that you need. So like sometimes it's what you got to do.
Yeah, no, I made the very conscious decision that no, this is what they're going to have. The only ones I did like magnetize stuff for was my Storm Surge. You know, when I have this giant, $400 model, I'm like, oh yeah, all right, I'm going to magnetize some of these weapons.
And I'll admit I probably should have magnetized the sponsons on my Bane Blade, things like that, but I did remember to leave the top swappable so my Bane Blade can be
a lot of
swapped.
stuff can be friction fit as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff
now.
The new kits, GW did up their game a little bit, and the new kits are a lot more flexible in terms of that. Not all the kits, but some of them, like the Bane Blade has a swappable top. I'm sure there's a bunch of Space Marine stuff that you can, like, what is it? Razorbacks. You can just pull the turret off and they're, look, it's a Rhino now.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Well, Rhinos have always been like that. There's usually like a plate on the top, and that plate has the weapon in it. You can pull the whole plate off and replace it.
Yeah, they give you two. They give you two plates. One plate that has a hole in it that has the turret, and then another plate that's just a
dummy plate.
Full doors. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
So GW hasn't had an official rule for it in a while, but back in 4th and 5th edition, the good rule of thumb was from an Imperial Armor book was that about 50% of anything you field in your army should be GW plastic or Forge World resin.
Yeah, I haven't heard that in a while.
I've kept moving forward with that in mind, and I think it's a good thing for people to have in mind.
Yeah,
because when you're working, when you're working on something like your custom war boss, you may have found a really cool the one that I see all the time is that really cool Bones miniature that's like a fire giant. And then people kind of hack them up and they fit different orc bits on it. But you kind of want to make sure at a certain point that if you're on the table, you're not using a bunch of Bones figures to go against somebody that's playing against you and again, more in a tournament setting. But a lot of that's because, you're bringing a consistent level of dedication to the hobby that the other person has. So if I've got my $700 Tau army on the table, I don't want to be fighting against your $20 Bones miniatures
there's
army.
more to it than that. Also, I have a good, example. I have a chess set that's a Street Fighter chess set.
Okay.
And this Street Fighter chess set, instead of pawns, it has like little fists. And the other guy, instead of little fists for his pawns, he has like little skulls. And then on each side is different characters. So like your king is Ryu and your queen is Chun-Li. And then on the other side, your king is Akuma and your queen is some other person. But as I'm playing chess, it makes it a lot harder to understand what is what because it's not the actual piece.
It's not
a knight. It's not a queen.
You don't immediately recognize it as a rook.
Exactly, 100%. So kind of take that as an example for 40k. Yeah, you may be running like like I do, an ODST trooper, but your opponent may not know. Like, oh, well, I didn't know that was a Scion. Like that looks like something else. Like, why would I? Yeah,
we ran them on stream the other night when we streamed, but I
kept the very first game
times where we established.
Yeah, the very first game I played against you, I was like, what are those again? What are those again?
Exactly.
What are those again?
Yeah. Well, that's also, you hadn't played. I don't think you'd played since Scions became.
No, but I was looking at buying Scions at the time.
Oh, okay.
That was before I sold you my guard units. I was looking at
still thinking about
upgrading my guard army. And it's just, and it's not that there's a problem with it. It's that in my mind, it is kind of a gentleman's agreement.
Right.
You know? If you've got a good bits box and you've got a super cool model from a different line that you want to use, 100% use it. I am a huge fan of that. But put a bunch of bits on it so I know it's an orc war boss and I'm not like, who's that dude with the big mohawk?
A troll from
Wait, is that a fire elemental that you're fielding?
And one of the ways we kind of like justify using the Elysians as Scions is, well, one, they axe the Elysian line.
Yep.
So they're gone.
Yeah.
And the Scions are paratroopers essentially.
Yeah.
So are the Elysians. It kind of like, if I'm going to proxy them as anything else, like that would be what to proxy them as.
Yeah.
Legends, man, though. Legends, man.
Yeah. I try not to bring any Legends units, just not because it's like weird to bring Legends units, like because we bring all kinds of ridiculous stuff. Like isn't Stompa Legends?
No. The big mech on bike,
big mech on board bike,
Orca.
Yeah, the Orca's Legends. The Thunderhawk doesn't really have rules or whatever.
There's like another variant for the Thunderhawk, or something like that. Yeah,
I'm sure some of the stuff you've got is probably ancient rules from 2nd edition or something.
Everything that I had that was considered Legends.
I was like, no, you're just speaking about Ryan personally.
Oh yeah, right.
I've even kitbashed myself to be non-Legends. Everything that I've got that fits into Legends, I've specifically kitbashed to be out of Legends. Okay. Or I run it as non-Legends.
I'm very sad because a bunch of units I wanted got put into Legends just recently.
Yeah, just give it a bit. It'll probably come back.
Like I have
Imperial Guard stuff never gets
I have hazard suits that I custom made, but I gave them the guns that look like the guns.
I like your hazard suits.
Yeah, and they're suits that are modified that look like suits that are modified. So it's like, they don't look like what they actually are, but they're different enough, but they're also like the same enough to where you can figure out what they are.
I look at them, they're crisis suits.
They're crisis, exactly, which is what they are. You know,
but as being on the receiving end of them, I recognize them for what you've explained them to be.
Yeah.
Like
it's not it's not a bunch of Transformer bumblebees.
Yeah.
Right. That have no relevance whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they have.
It's very clear that dude has 4 Gatling plasma.
Yeah, exactly.
Guns. Yeah. Something that's going to murder all my guardsmen. Then that other one's got a bunch of missile launchers.
My only, and this isn't a complaint from me because I love Tom's hazard suits and I love the lore that he has behind him. But my only gripe is that if you're going to be doing conversions or proxies, try to make the model the same size as what you're trying to make it to be.
Yep. Same size base.
Try to make same size and same size base.
Yep. Vertically.
Yes. Because hazard suits are a little bit taller and they do have a bigger base. But
I didn't know that when I
and that's why
because I was going off of the bases that were from 7th edition.
I personally don't care. The reason for this is because of what do you call it? Hobbying for advantage,
modeling for advantage,
which I know Tom is not obviously doing.
No, well, I mean, and that's the whole thing too. Is like I have 30, actually, I have more than 30 crisis suits. Half of them are from their older models.
Yeah, the older ones,
and the newer models have different size bases. Yeah. So it's like you can't just change it up on us halfway through. You know what I mean?
There's always a good conversations about that in the Imperial Guard groups, like because there's sniper models where the snipers are laying down.
Oh, they have like the square base, right?
They had the square bases laying down. Yeah,
I think it's the old Catachan snipers.
Old Catachans,
square base and a rectangle base. And somebody was like, "Well, I got a bunch of these laying down guys off eBay. Like, if I run them as a squad, is that like a dick move?" And it kind of is because like you could just lay them down behind the smallest piece of terrain and then you just can't see them. Like,
well, that's not modeling for advantage because that's a legit model.
It's a legit
not only that, but
supposed to get 5 just laying down guys. It was supposed to be 1 laying down guy, 1 kneeling up guy, 1 kneeling guy.
Well, guess what?
But that's
too damn bad.
Right, but they're all official models.
They still have a line of sight rule, and you can you would still say if you had the correct models on table, right, one of those guys would be standing up and I could see him. And then as a Catachan sniper player, you could be like, yeah, but I've got this, and this, so you can't see me. Yeah. Because most of the snipers in the game have dumb rules, so it's hard to see them.
Did you guys see the Gaunt's Ghost rules yet?
I did not.
I saw the try again guy. That's pretty funny. Yeah, try again brag is pretty funny.
It's funny. It's super lore friendly. It's not necessarily good. I'm okay with that. Especially if you think about it. So if he scores no hits, he gets to fire again. Yeah. But he's probably going to score 1 hit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So you're never really going to get to use it. It's just funny that if he scores no hits.
It's 2 shots?
It's just a regular autocannon. So it's 2 shots hitting on 5s.
Yeah. So
he'll likely hit 1 and then never get to use the ability. Yeah. But it's good. It's a good flavor because
you'd be surprised, man, with orcs. I mean, you hitting on 5s, 1 shot, like you miss a lot.
It's such
hitting on 3s as Eldar. You miss a lot.
I don't know what you're talking
about. Anyway, you were just talking about sniper rules. They legit have the best sniper rule. Can't be targeted if you're more than like 18 inches away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just literally can't be targeted at all.
So
he just sits there and the sniper can just wail on people.
Away.
Larkin.
Yeah. And he has all the good 6s do mortal wounds. He has the ignores lookout, sir. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So to steer you guys a little bit back on topic, what I was kind of driving at as we were talking about keeping your model 50% GW plastic and all of that is something's happened in the last 5 years. It's changed the way that miniatures hobbying in general works, not just 40K, but in general. And that's 3D printing, specifically resin 3D printing. If you're into bits bashing,
we're going to open up this can of worms.
We are. If you're into bits bashing and you're into making your own stuff and you have a little bit of cash, a little bit of know-how or the willingness to learn, you can really make 3D printing pay for itself.
I'm a 100% advocate of 3D printing.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate of Mark's 3D printing.
And my 3D printing.
Speaking of 3D printing, you can see
I did some
of my
ethical
work.
Yeah, there we go.
For our mascot Scully.
I did what I consider ethical kit bashing using Mark's 3D printing.
So Kevin, you were saying that like you've printed out. I know Kevin, you've done a couple of like custom las guns.
It's smashing.
Yeah, just bits.
Yeah,
a couple extra bits to like
a couple helmet swaps, a couple gun swaps, things like that. Billy is, all basically all custom at this point.
Yeah,
but it's all.
Is any of it 3D printed though? I think that's all bits.
No,
isn't it?
Billy is 100% bits official.
GW.
But don't you have? Didn't we find like a cool? There's a couple of, and like there's cool little third party or whatever 3D resin things that you can find. That like, like I want this commissar hat.
Oh, right.
I want this head. I want this screaming head. Like, and I know you've got kind of older school chassis or something that you had printed out. You've got the mortar kit, but like the chassis looks like kind of ancient. So you've got the wheels and the cannon from it, but the chassis itself is like the old school.
Yeah, there's like little bits and like there's like some sandbags that are different. Things like that I threw on there. Really, the one that I went ham on, because like we discussed earlier, you're going to spend more time on your characters or, your vehicles
100%,
over your infantry. So my chaff are all pretty basic. My Billy obviously got a good paint job. My commissars all got good paint jobs because, they got to look fancy.
Right.
Rogue traders, I spent a lot of time making those guys look nice. They have the good vibrant colors and stuff on there, a lot of gold filigree. But it was my tank commander. My Beyblade got a lot of good detail too, but specifically, there's this one tank commander that I strapped what are essentially logs to.
Oh yeah, you got all your logs and your
I got some backpacks that were left over from a heavy weapons teams. Then I glued that to the outside of the turret, all like World War II style.
Right.
And then I used some. It's just called like hobby string or whatever, and it's just super. It's like really thick for kite string, but I
forgot to bring it for you, but we ordered these like gauze packets from Amazon and they were just crap. So we returned them, and because they were like, no, we got them for like first aid at the house.
Well, you got them for first aid, but I can use them as camo nets. That's what
Amazon was like, don't send them back. So I've got so many. I'll give you some for camo nets. I was going to give you some. I'm going to use a bunch in terrain, but I'm going to give you some.
Oh yeah, use a bunch for terrain. It'll be great for terrain. Yeah, my tank commander. So then I found real sticks. That's one of the things that I actually think is really fun is finding stuff in nature.
Yeah,
that will work because then it looks natural. It doesn't look like it's made out of the wrong material. Either you don't have to paint it, or if you paint it, you just kind of dirty it up a little bit to make it look grimy. So I legitimately found some sticks, used some TID snips to cut them up to the
right size.
I referred to as standard issue log.
Yeah, there you go.
And it was it was
gotta carry one of those at all time.
Yeah, no, the commissar
rolls downstairs.
Yeah, commissar would shoot you if your tank got stuck and you didn't have standard issue log.
Oh, I was going with rolls downstairs and over your neighbor's dog.
No, not that log. No,
wrong log.
Where's your government issue rock?
In World War II, the Russian tanks had I think it was the tank destroyer specifically, but also some of the T-34s had a log strapped to the back of it because when when you get stuck in the dirt or something, you want to stick a stick.
You got to get the hell out.
So tanks would carry a specific. There's a specific length log, and that was like their specifications for how big the log had to be, diameters and everything. Yeah. And if it wasn't up to spec, the commissar would shoot you because you were basically guaranteed that this tank was going to get stuck at some point.
Man, you gotta read the Siege of Terra stuff because the third book has a lot of they don't call them, they call them integrity officers because the heresy hasn't happened yet. But holy fuck, they're like, are you looking the wrong direction, trooper? I'm gonna shoot you for looking east. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, this is way where they're not even in battle yet. Like this is just Commissar Dick.
Yeah, Commissar Dick.
That's how it is. Like, our food's ready, and then afterwards we'll have dessert. There'll be no deserting. No deserting here. No dessert, Commissar. No deserting. All right, nobody gets cake.
Or and then there's so I have that one that's all decked out. I tried to make it like it's called lived in. Is the kind of look that I went for. So I wanted to make it look like this tank's been around, the crew's been in the tank for a while. And rather than it be a bunch of dudes fresh off the boat, like, yeah, we're brand new. It's like, oh, this tank, the dudes are like, okay, well, I'm going to need some of this. And they strap that to the outside. It's
like backpacks.
Yeah, the backpack's got some smoke grenades and a shovel hanging off of it.
Yep.
There's like, tow cables and like tools and things.
And that's one of the things that like 3D printing can really help with. You can get candles, you can get skulls, spikes, all these little details, backpacks,
tiny little.
There's
bits.
all the candles. There's all the candles that I printed for you.
The way that I look at it is with 3D printing, you want to have a light touch. You don't want to replace the whole model. You want to have a light touch because that's what makes it unique.
Yeah, make the model yours, but it's still
that's what
in the army.
It's what makes it unique, but it's also what makes it a Warhammer model. I mean, like all my knights have at least one like accent piece, whether it be a weapon or something like that, that's printed. And it's just enough to say like, oh yeah, no, you look at it and you go, yeah, that's an Imperial Knight. And then he has this other weapon and you're like, oh, with a trident, and then it tells the story for the lore aspect, and that's the key. And that's what I think is like the real benefit of being able to do that is to create these accents,
Or like what I'm doing with my Exodites is I'm finding all these weird alien dinosaur hybrid creatures on my mini factory. And I'm using those as the bikes. The rider and the weapons and everything, it's still an Eldari figure. It's still an Eldar figure from 2003. GW, please print us new Guardians. But I'm using that, and I'm even going crazier because like my War Walkers and my Fire Prisms, I'm actually buying 2 GW kits for every single model I field. When I field a Fire Prism, I'm buying
they look
2 GW kits.
That's crazy because normally like you can bit smash to save money, but you're out
not
there.
At this level.
Well,
do you understand the level of heresy I operate on?
You are doing an extensive amount of kit bashing.
Oh yeah. I
like what we were saying.
It.
I changed a helmet. I changed a rifle here and there. I changed a wheel on something.
I did cheat once, and I'll totally admit it. The Tau Codex allows you to field CIBs with every single crisis suit.
Yep.
And you can do up to 3 of them.
Yep.
There is one CIB on one sprue for the entire army, and it's a commander.
Yep.
I am running CIBs on all. You guys have played against me. I run heavy CIBs. I modeled that myself in Blender, and I 3D printed it because I am not buying 79 commanders for CIBs for my army.
Well, that's like what I was saying, where for Imperial Guard, there's only one kit in our whole setup that comes with a plasma gun. Plasma pistols you can get in a couple kits because Scions have them now too.
Yeah.
But plasma gun and bolt gun, like the full size, but man size versions of them.
I actually made.
Yeah.
And it comes with one of them.
An enforcer suit. So the crisis suits have an enforcer, like iridium suit.
Yeah, it's got all the extra armor.
It's got extra armor plates on it. They only make one in a normal pack, and you can field 6 of them. You know, you can field as many as you want, as long as they're bodyguards. So they only make this one chest piece. So I actually made, using expanding resin, the 2-part resin that you mix.
2-part, yeah.
Yep. With a hard plastic to make the mold.
Yeah.
You know,
I've dabbled in that.
Yeah.
So with my Death Watch, before I got into 3D printing, I actually made a silicone mold of my, people have done this with green stuff and stuff as well. And with that as well, but you make a silicone mold of your shoulder pads, because when you buy a shoulder pad, it comes with, I believe, 5 normal Marine pads, and then it comes with 2 Terminator pads. Well, the Terminators are in groups of 5, so if you want a group of, you need to buy 3 of these, and these are all $15 a piece. So you're spending $45 for,
and you're ending up with like 20 Marines you don't need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people make silicone molds, which I did at first, and then I got into 3D printing. And I've dabbled.
And I'll also
and hot dog buns.
I'll also say,
why don't they come in the same size?
Equal.
Like, I don't understand. How hard is it?
It's because hot dogs are also made by GW.
Well, now you need more hot dogs.
The tea spilled.
I'll also say, from having done it a lot of 3D printing also does not pay for itself the way people think it pays for itself. You gotta, a lot of times, if you want something specific, you've got to 3D model it yourself, which means that's time you're not getting paid for. You've got to actually print it. That's time you're not getting paid for. You've got to clean and maintain the machine. So when a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you got a 3D printer so you could print a 2,000 point army. Absolutely not. I would rather buy a 2,000 point army.
Yep.
100%.
And print 6 bits to make my commanders look cool.
100%. You have to slice it. You have to find the 3D model. You have to slice the 3D model. You have to support it. You have to clean it. You have to break it off. It's
not only that, but I like voting with my
like another 3,000 points worth of orcs.
Yes, 100%.
I would also.
I'd rather buy more.
The reasons is because it's better just to buy them.
And not only that, but like I like GW. I like their product. I want to support the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And local game stores.
Yeah, and onboard gaming.
Local game stores.
But I actually really enjoy the aesthetics of the models. Like, a lot of people are like, I found
the models look fucking
these
sick,
cool alternate guard models, but I'm like, I actually kind of like these chunky Cadians.
Yeah,
they are a little chunky, and I get it. You know, the model's a little dated compared to some of the newer stuff. Yeah. Like the Scions look great, but the Scions, I will tell you, they are monopose as monopose gets.
Yeah.
Every single one of the special weapons has a single pose.
Oh yeah, and that's why I spend a lot of time hacking things together, and it's great time to bring up scratch building, moving the arm. And so scratch building is another level of all of this. Really commonly, you're going to use a lot of brass rod. You're going to use a lot of brass sheeting. You're going to use a lot of plasticard. You might use other things like Sculpey, Milliput, green stuff, and kind of carve and sculpt it the way you want to. Scratch building is different from kit bashing. Just as kit bashing, you got 2 kits, you're bashing them together. Scratch building is like making a meal from scratch. You got raw bits and you're putting them together. So I combine a lot of scratch building and kit bashing. Move that arm out a little bit, put a piece of plastic card in there, carve it down so it fits. Or when it comes to certain things like my Orc boys, which we'll show you here in a second, and some of my rat mech stuff, I've had to build extra parts with scratch building just to make it look aesthetically fitting within the army theme that I'm going for.
Yeah, you made power armored mega knobs or whatever?
I really like
50% plastic card. Not really.
They're like, they're like 25% plastic card, but there's a lot of plastic card.
But it looks really dope. I'm excited to see them when they're painted. Like 10 years from now.
1 year.
Right, yeah, one day.
1 year.
Like after we're both married, you'll be like, look what I finally got done.
When Kevin and I get married, we're getting married now.
No,
our fiance's getting married and we're getting married. Is that how that works?
I mean, maybe.
Shit. So the granddaddy of all of this that brings everything we have talked about together is terrain.
Is Ryan.
So terrain is God damn it. So terrain is painting, it's basing, it's kit bashing, it's scratch building, it's pulling all the stops out to immerse it as much as you can in the game. And don't worry, in your first couple of games, we all started off stacking up textbooks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Putting out, here you go, here's a grain silo, grabbing green felt,
Yeah, I think on our Instagram, I have a picture of the wifey and me playing with alcohol bottles and the carrying cases for our armies.
Yeah, when you start out, cool. That's your terrain. And there's no problem with that. But as you get deeper into the game and as you get more into theming and immersing yourself, it's a lot of fun to build terrain. And terrain doesn't have to be a major expense. We've already brought up a couple of these things. Kevin just brought up going around and picking up sticks. Here in Southern California, we have a type of bush called sagebrush. And sagebrush, when you find cuttings or you find a dead one and you cut it up and you dry it and all the sage falls off it, it looks like old gnarled dead trees that are already at the right scale.
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
Done.
Yeah.
You need a blasted landscape. There you go. That's free. That's on the side of the freeway. If somebody, yeah, right.
We can go outside and get like a handful of like chunked up granite rocks.
Oh yeah,
anything. We can
and
find
also
all
on the
kinds
side of the road. There's roadkill. That's fun too.
That's my if my other hobby.
To make a bunch of chaos marauders, you could definitely go get some roadkill.
You
and
can
pull
slap
some fur off of it.
Prolapse. Coyote booty on your
roadkill in California.
Are you kidding me,
dude? I saw like 3 roadkill today.
Yeah,
I saw a hawk. I saw a hawk rip a pigeon out of the air on my drive over.
I have not seen roadkill in California.
I had like a falcon or something.
You're not looking.
Like it was a young.
I just think there's no animals here.
I literally saw a coyote.
It chased a flock of pigeons into a hedgerow.
Oh my God.
Like in our front yard. It was crazy. And then it was just like, it was running around like a T-Rex on the ground. I was like, get him.
I saw a skunk this morning and a coyote this afternoon.
Well, yeah, because your house is like surrounded by wildlife. Every time I've come over to this damn place, I've had a snake crawl down my leg.
Oh yeah.
I've had like dead rats and all.
Did I tell you guys one of my windows is broken?
So there's a snake in the house. Great. Thanks.
No, a hawk saw himself and attacked himself.
Oh shit!
And broke my daughter's window.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah,
and they almost did it again last week on my kitchen window.
Yeah, not surprised, man.
Yeah, he tore that shit up.
It's like Fern Gully out here.
So yeah, like bark, different woods, sticks. There's all sorts of good material that you can just find. Another thing that I'm a huge advocate of that these guys have heard me talk about a lot is buying sand that's already prepped for kids. And you can buy it in like 5-pound bags. That'll last you years. You can buy crushed coral from an aquatic warehouse. You can bake that. That'll last you for years. The other thing that you might want to do is if you can find one, make friends with your local plastics company, plastic companies, signage companies.
Oh, they've got days.
They throw so much cast off aside because to them, a little tiny 5-inch by 5-inch piece is worthless. To you, that's a building.
Yeah.
My favorite.
And they have to pay to get rid of that.
Yeah, they got to pay.
So you're a free disposal service to them.
Also, e-waste guys. You guys have seen. I'm a huge fan of ripping PC fans out, using PC fans for Warhammer stuff.
I noticed that your PC fans they're well hidden, but
they're in
good.
there.
And they
look good. They look like crazy,
good, great fans. Yeah.
My favorite material to use personally is Gator board. Gator board is an incredibly dense and durable poster board.
That's good stuff.
It's actually used in dimensional signage. I wouldn't recommend going out and getting Gator board unless you've used Gator board. I actually have a background in the signage industry, but yeah, just become a pro at finding and reusing materials. What's the other thing that I can't stress enough? Thrift stores. Buy toys from thrift stores, paint them up. That's a statue. That's a ruined car. That's whatever you need.
Posted that up on Instagram.
Yeah, that
had
the
some
giant
toy of the
statue I did.
the brass one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
The other big one is pink insulation foam.
Yeah, I use a lot of that.
Yeah. Printing propaganda posters can give you, with just your laser printer,
that cherry
can
on
give
top.
you that little extra on top.
Those came out really good when you did those.
I got so many of them, dude. I printed so many of those.
They came out really nice. And it's a good little flavor immersion.
Yeah.
It helps set the scale for the buildings as well.
Yeah.
So that way, even if there isn't a model standing right next to it, you still kind of get a really good idea of how big it is in relations to how big a person's supposed to be, kind of thing.
And this is the unsung hero of 3D printing. You want something specific, especially your buildings. You want your windows to look a little bit more Gothic, and you can't hand carve a Gothic window. There's a 3D print that will fit into that area. You want a little bit of a buttress, or you want a corner. There's a 3D print.
You want some
for that architectural
hanging
detail.
off the top. Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want like grotesques or like gargoyles.
Yeah.
Stuff like
Grotesques are off. Gargoyles are on top. Is that how it works?
So, yeah.
Honestly, I don't know.
That college education's
Might be
doing
the
me
other way
good
around.
right now. I think grotesques are the ones that hang out, and gargoyles are the ones that are on top.
Yeah. It's that. Is that the other way around? I don't.
They can only talk when water runs to their mouths. That's all I remember.
I just remember in the Notre Dame Hunchback of Notre Dame movie, it was really dope.
Yeah, you want a hunchback on your building? Boom, 3D.
No,
print.
it was great. All the gargoyles and grotesques, because it had both of them, and apparently there's a difference between the two. But at one point, when he's defending the cathedral, he dumps molten lava out of all of them. It was like it was super cool. It was like I was like, this is some Warhammer shit, and the whole cathedral is just like pouring lava out of all the mouths.
Whenever you say gargoyles, I just think of Goliath.
Dude, that was the coolest show.
love that.
That was the
that.
best. Not as cool as Roughnecks, the Starship Troopers CGI.
Yeah,
That was
the
better.
Best
But
show
Gargoyles was
on
really
planet.
cool too. So was Tailspin.
So the only other thing that I could recommend to find and buy is Plasticard. Evergreen Plastics is a resource that you can find on Amazon. You can also find them at Tom brought up model train stores earlier. Evergreen Plastics are usually there.
If you are lucky enough to have a model train store near you, go to it.
It's such a resource.
I feel like every game store I've been in, like third party, or not third party, but like mom and shop local game store has Plasticard.
most have Plasticard. So Evergreen Plastics is actually an architectural modeling company.
Oh,
when you're looking at those crazy architectural models
where they build what is this, a school for ants?
Right.
Yeah.
So but they do a thing where they have like a bits and pieces bag. So you can buy their bits and pieces bag and you might get some plastic I-beams. You might get some pipes. It's a really, really good resource for little stuff like that.
That actually sounds like a really awesome deal.
Let's list off some hobby tools before we get into questions from our Discord community. Yeah. Right off the bat, snap razor blades. I think snap razor blades are tits. You get a blade, snap off when you need a new one. X-Acto blades.
Yep. I have like 17,000.
Always. Jewelry or modeling saws.
Like a Dremel?
No, like
he's
a
talking
hand, precision German engineered
I don't
modeling
have one of those,
saw.
but that sounds like a really good idea.
Dremel's one that I actually left off my list. So thanks for bringing up Dremel.
Dremels are great.
Yep. Tiny files.
I think nail files.
Hand drill.
One of my personal favorites, I love it, is nail clippers.
Nail clippers,
Specifically nail clippers for two reasons.
Taking the screws off.
It's for getting them out of the sprues. They're curved. And so it's like for things like Imperial Guard shoulder pads. I don't know where the sprue mounts up on a Space Marine shoulder pad, but like the Imperial Guard one, it goes right into a round surface. So what I can do is I can get the clippers in and match up with the curve and clip. And then I don't end up with an ugly nub.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's modeling snips, which are designed for it, but not as good. They're designed for it,
but they don't have that same curvature.
Yeah.
And they don't fit in your hand the same way.
It's kind of a niche thing.
I really like, and everybody's familiar with them.
Yeah.
Like, it's
especially
not like
if you're using something,
use it.
if you're snipping off something organic like Nurgle or whatnot.
Like a little tentacle or something, you can get it in there. And get
if you've got giant banana hands like I do, the self-locking tweezers.
Yeah.
You push to open rather than push to close. You push to open them.
Yep.
That actually, I might need that. That would help because my hand shakes. So when I'm putting on tiny little bits, it's like, it might be nice to be able to precision and then kind of let go of them.
There's a couple of really good kits that are actually made for Gunpla that I found on Amazon. We'll toss a link in the show notes for those.
Oh, like little toolkits?
Yeah, it's got like everything we're talking about now that I think about it.
Grooming kits, but it's like
basically.
Modeling.
Yeah,
I buy those
grooming kits.
I buy those emery board kits that like emery boards for like nail salons. They sell that stuff in bulk.
Yeah.
I buy bulk packs of that about twice a year. Yep. And I use those because I use those at work too, because I do a lot of scratch building at work. But yeah, wood glue, super glue, modeling glue, green stuff, sculpting tools.
I got one that will blow everyone's mind if you don't know about this.
Uh-oh.
So something that Tom and me are huge advocates for is accelerator.
Oh,
yeah.
I was kind of thinking kicker. Yeah.
If you hate sitting there holding a guardsman's arm to his torso for 5 minutes for 100 guardsmen, this will change your life.
I use kicker on everything.
Everything. Same here.
It, speaking from experience building a shit ton of guardsmen, it really depends on the type of glue you have. Some glue dries way faster than others.
Oh, yeah,
I have a really
washing the real trick that everybody's missing, and I'm horrible at this too, is you really should open your kit, submerge it in soapy water, like Dawn dish soap and water for about 30 minutes, and then rinse it and dry it off.
Too lazy.
Never done that.
Accelerator.
Never done it once. But I've
but it's the mold. The what you're fighting with the glue
release.
is the mold release.
Yeah.
For me, it was always like I figured out if I put the glue on, wait like 15 seconds, and then smack that guardsman's arm on there, hold it for like 15 seconds, good to go.
Too long.
No,
I like
15 seconds tops.
This is the difference between how I can build an entire Porphyron in like 2 days.
Boom. Torso, boom glue, boom arm, accelerator, move on to the next one. 4 seconds.
As a kit basher, I want that articulated. I want to find that perfect spot. I don't want it.
I get to finagle.
Yeah.
But if
like
you're
10 seconds
if you're snap fit,
finagle.
That's true. If you're snap fit, if you're monopost snap fit.
With the Scions, it probably would have been handy to be able to slap through 3 pieces together at the same time.
We brought up Citadel paints earlier. I love and I'm very loyal to Citadel paints. I've tried a couple of others and I like them. I like the effect, but I'm a Citadel paints guy. But I'm gonna blow everybody's mind right now, especially if you're a new player. If you are going to paint terrain, get craft paint. Find the cheapest acrylic paint you have access to. Learn how to mix basic colors. It's really not that difficult.
Don't do what my dumbass did and buy 3 pots of Agriax Earthshade to wash your building.
And that's the other thing. If you need ink, and you will need ink for terrain, make your own. Order or find India ink. Learn how to mix it. At some point, I'll go over my recipe.
We can have a whole other episode, honestly, on any of these topics. Honestly,
specifically.
If you guys have like a specific one you want us to cover more, I'm more than willing, because I feel like I didn't say enough on any of these topics. Honestly,
This is a big one, but yeah, we'll share some stuff. I'll share my ink recipe at some point. You guys, anything else to cover up, or let's jump into our Discord questions?
Yeah, super glue.
Yeah, let's get to the
super glue.
Yeah.
I said, did I?
Well, I guess
super glue?
We could do a little tidbits: super glue versus plastic glue, because we didn't really cover that.
I was just joking, but
I hate plastic glue.
Same.
Super glue is the way to go.
Purple.
I like it.
Purple double plus super glue, man. That's the one.
I used to love zap, not zip zap.
Yeah, zip glue.
Zip glue. Zap-a-gap.
That's what I use. That's what I use now, and that's what I'm saying. It takes like 15 seconds to dry.
I use Gorilla Glue now.
Use that like Bob Ross, Bob Smith, whatever the hell it's called.
Oh yeah,
but
I don't like plastic glue, because plastic glue really only works if you're bonding ABS to ABS.
Yep.
Plastic glue is really good if you're trying to get rid of seams.
It is
because it expands
fantastic.
a little bit. The other thing that you can do to get rid of seams is baking soda. Sprinkle baking soda over the seam, put a little bit of super glue in it, sprinkle baking soda into the seam.
Oh, basically just mortar it together. Yeah, I agree though. Plastic glue is way better than Zap-a-Gap, because I've worked with both very frequently.
When I'm making like scale model airplanes, I use plastic glue.
So the only reason I don't like plastic glue, I'll be quick on this, but if you make a mistake, you are fucked. You cannot snap that arm back off. You are going to need to cut that off with an X-Acto.
If
you do have to commit to it.
Also that's another reason that I love super glue. Toss it in the freaking freezer for like a day, snap those babies off. The other thing you have to watch out with plastic glue, and as a real quick thing, because I work in an industry that's super plastic heavy, you might pick up plastic and think it's some type of plastic that it's not. Most toy grade plastic is ABS. Lots of production-based plastic is PPE or PET or HDPE. There's a bunch of different types of plastic. Plastic glue will literally melt or debond certain types of plastic. So if you've got an ABS, you find a really cool bit that you want to put on your guardsman, you put plastic glue on it, you slap that bit on it, and now you have melting ABS and PPE, and your entire model will turn into like a rubber jelly. because the PPE starts to chemically leach into the ABS.
Ooh, that's
so you really have to be careful.
Gas and you will die.
Right? Yeah. That's all I hear when he's talking about
I was
this.
like mustard gas and die.
Yeah, I keep waiting for him to be like, and the gas will be released and you'll die.
I was waiting.
Which is really funny because I've done this several times on accident and I've never gassed myself.
Well, you're lucky.
I also have a workshop when I'm playing with this stuff. That's
Kevin
vintage.
gasses himself daily.
Especially after Wings Wednesday.
Right.
So we asked our Discord community if they had any questions on the hobby side of Warhammer 40k, and they gave us a couple of good questions. So first off, Minion Coffin asked, when's we gonna get into our WoW episodes? So I think we're at about episode 11 at this point for our orcs.
Whenever
episode.
you stop saying it like that.
You don't want me to copy it?
I hate it.
But we are working on the notes now. And if you join our Discord community, which we'll plug a little bit later, we do ask our Discord community, hey, do you have any specific questions? So that's a good way to
questions,
get there.
polls. We're actually, I think we have something called the Hive Project.
Yeah, we'll bring it up here in a minute. Yeah. So DeFeo asked, can you go over the steps and the process of painting? Different companies use a lot of different terms. And as a new hobbyist, this information would be very helpful. I think we kind of went over it earlier.
Absolutely not.
But just to run through it really quickly, your prime layer is your undercoat for the entire model. Your base coat is your primary color. You've got your wash. Usually, this is how I do it anyway. Your wash, which puts all your inks and your deeps in. Then you're going to do your layers and your blending. So as Tom had mentioned, those other colors.
That's not how I do that at all.
That's not how you do that.
No.
Then I highlight and then I dry brush.
Mine is a really like it was very speed oriented, as we said. Like I was out there, got my shit, and then banged it out in like 5 days from box open to play.
Yeah, but you also paint for 8 hours a day. I paint like 2 hours.
I was working. I was working full time. Full 8 hour days during that.
I thought that was when you were finishing up school.
No,
but anyway,
I was working at this.
What's your process?
But it was you just prime it.
Prime's always base one.
Hit it with a base coat.
Yep. That was the
first two. Luckily, I had 2 colors for base coat.
Right.
The green armor, tan jumpsuits, or tan armor, green jumpsuits, depending on which batch. And then that was basically it, because I used Tom's idea of leaving the boots and stuff black. That was 3 colors. Bang.
So you're basically, you're not doing an ink, you're not doing a layer, you're not doing a highlight, and you're not doing a dry brush.
Pretty much. And then after I went back and bought a second batch, I got a brown layer paint, the leather, Angrax leather or whatever.
Right, so DeFeo plays Deathwatch, so I'm gonna help him out.
You could bang out if you wanted, like, do it like me, where you're like, I did this color, this color, this color, and that was it.
So DeFeo, I'm gonna help you out as much as I can.
Prime purple.
Because I use an airbrush. It depends. It all really depends on what you want your army to look like. I've seen people do black, and then if you have an airbrush, I would suggest one. But if you do not, it's going to be a little more rough. But you can dry brush very lightly with gray, and then you can wash it either blue or with Nolan oil after you do all your silvers. And then because you want your depth, that's what your washes are for. Your washes are there to bring depth to your colors.
And blue helps on metal because metal has a tendency to blue when it's hot or old, by the way.
Yeah, and it just looks good. It
gives it a nice shadow that's slightly shiny.
Yeah, it doesn't make it brings out the black more, because usually when you're painting black, it's really hard to bring out any details. So when you dry brush and then you wash, it helps bring out that detail, but not too much to the point where it doesn't look like it's a black model anymore. And then you can do all your reds and all of your different little like brasses and golds, and then you can, depending on what you're painting, if it's silver, use, a black wash. If it's a brass color, use a brown wash. If you're washing red, or if you're painting red, wash with brown. You don't want to dull things down too much. So it all depends. If you have any other questions, you can also feel free to DM us.
Yeah. And Marky and I have a recipe that we've been working on so I can speed paint my Black Legion. So that'll actually we'll share that. That'll probably actually give you a pretty good idea. You're not going to do gold. You're going to do silver.
Yeah.
Mine's actually kind of weird. I'll base or wash first. Depending on what
the fuck you washing, plastic?
Yeah.
I usually
wash the plastic.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm doing like lighter colors, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the reason
it could be like zenithal. I could see that.
The reason I do that
Underlayer
is
as opposed to overlayer.
I'm used to painting a lot of things that have like panels, right? Like crisis suits, things like that. They have a lot. They have a lot of panels on them with like little small lines that show that they're made up of smaller pieces. So when you wash it first, you're getting into all those parts without soaking the entire thing in a dark color. Right.
It's kind of like edge highlighting.
Yeah, it's basically I'm getting into all the cracks first, and that's all I'm doing. And then I will do my layer coats on top of that. Right. So when I paint over those pieces, I'm not getting into the cracks. So they'll still have those black crack lines. And because I'm not painting the whole thing black, right, that the paint will still be light enough on the other panels.
Also, he's basically adding a shadow underneath, and Tom is thinning his paints.
We all do
many layers. Yeah.
And
like an onion.
I 1,000% stand by Duncan's How to Paint Acadian Guardsman video. That video taught me so many things, and a lot like one of the things that it taught me that a lot of new people will probably overlook. And I shared the video in a BattleTech painting group because somebody was like, I just have no idea where to start with painting. And I was like, use these techniques, but apply them to your mech. But it was his idea that if you're going to paint it a different color later, who cares if you overlap it?
Yeah. Like, don't spend a bunch of time cleaning up as you're painting.
Yeah. Like
have a clean up step, not clean up constantly.
Being a perfectionist is your enemy. I'm sorry.
And something to take away from all of this is
Always
a lot of people, in my opinion, that I've seen, the thing that I think is wrong is a lot of people wash, dry brush, and they're done. Dry brushing last makes sense. Washing second to last doesn't. You want to wash before you put on your blends and your layers.
I disagree.
But you wash earlier than I do.
Or no, that's only on certain things. Most of the time, that's what I was going to get back to.
This is a whole other episode, fellas.
Yeah, we're dragging.
What we should do, we gave you a couple of different ideas. What we should probably all do is we'll all paint live at some point and we'll let everybody know so you can see our different processes.
Like I said, everybody's workflow is going to be different. Yeah. If you guys have anything you want us to key in on one of the subjects that we spoke about.
If you want an entire episode, I
didn't think this was going to be this big of an argument, guys. I was like, this is how
everybody has different techniques.
It's different techniques in each army.
You guys are all
desire.
wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Your opinions all suck.
Yeah, you guys are all wrong.
Your Tau have a lot of panels. Your Knights
we all paint different armies. That's a key.
My guys are very generic. Like, there's nothing fancy about them.
I was going to say, I painted my Tau a lot like Tom actually mentioned. So he's correct in the sense that.
And then Eldar started to want a different kind of texture with the way everything looks.
with the way I paint my Tau, with the way I paint everything, I always ink third. And it's the reason that Tom brought up, really. But anyway, Ickbard asked, how do you all spread the word about what's up?
What?
Toes? How do you spread the word about toes? How do you all spread the word about content, whether it's your models, your lore stories, with the explosion of new people in the hobby and everyone being on their smartphones? So the answer is we registered ourselves with a bunch of different podcast services, and we make sure to try to release content every Wednesday evening. We also are really big on interacting with our community as much as possible. And the ways that we use to interact with our community and the ways that we distribute our podcast are both smartphone and computer friendly. But really the best
person when, obviously like quarantine permits.
Right. But really the best way for us to continue growing as a podcast and the best way for everybody is for you guys to follow us on Spotify. There's actually a follow thing that helps us stick out in the algorithm. Liking and sharing our content on social media obviously helps. Joining our community and spreading the word by word of mouth to your friends totally helps us.
Yeah,
we absolutely love our growing community. You guys are the best and you help us every freaking day.
Our best bet, honestly, is
help me
guys
not get any work done, you sons of bitches.
I was gonna say, it's funny because that question was from Ickbar.
That was from Ickbar.
I literally spoke to him last night for like an hour.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Like literally just hanging out, talking.
Yeah. Toes.
Our best bet to grow the podcast in this digital media world age that we live in, especially with quarantine still in effect in a lot of places, is for you guys to share the word. Like if you have friends, like I have friends who don't understand Warhammer, but they liked my pictures when I post like, oh, I finished this model and painted him. What do you guys think? They'll be like, I have no idea what that is, but it looks cool. And I'm like, cool.
Tune in.
Do you want to listen to my podcast?
It's our
like,
community.
and just listen to it anyways. He goes, I'll listen to it, but I have a friend who also paints these.
That's awesome.
And I'll recommend it to him.
Oh, right on.
And so it's a nice, like, if you can, if anybody recommends it to a friend, hey, that's one more.
Yeah.
Like that.
Also,
and that's a good community building.
Shout out to our two
Four-armed rats.
No, well, yeah, our four-armed rats. I was gonna say, what do you call them, Tom?
Mods?
Sugar daddies.
Oh, sugar daddies.
Yeah,
our Patreon days.
Yeah, our Patreon guys. DeFeo and Iqbar, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we definitely do. We'll
Y'all are pieces of shit.
As we roll into our outro, we'll plug our
Thanks
Patreon.
for giving us money.
Yeah. So Minion Coffin asks me. Mark takes it all. Minion Coffin asks, and try to do these a little quickly because these are big questions. What is the favorite model you have ever painted, or one that you've put the most effort into? And we'll post up some pictures in the video, and then we'll post up pictures on our social medias for this too.
That's a good ass question, man. I don't even know.
I think my favorite model that I've painted to date, and I think this is going to be replaced, is my Word Bearer's Land Raider. I actually painted the inside, and it looks like some dude got fucking murked inside and then dragged out. So there's like bloody marks out.
That's awesome.
There's blood splashed on the wall.
Can I name one from each of my armies?
Just pick one.
No.
I picked one.
Rattle
you
them
pick
off
one.
quickly. All three. Bang. One.
Squiggy, Redemptor, and goddamn Ripley.
Okay.
All right, cool.
That's fair.
So we're going to need 3 pictures from you.
Check the Instagram, motherfuckers.
I was going to say, I think all those are on there already.
I don't think Squiggy is. Yeah, he's
in pictures, but he's not featured.
My Beast Knight, hands down.
Yeah, dude.
Because that night was from the ground up.
I thought you were going to say Hercules. I was like, you didn't fucking paint.
I know. I was going to, and I was like, nah.
Man, I've got
Pick one.
a few, and I'm going to go with the Baneblade.
All right.
Specifically.
Yeah.
We both picked big ass
That is on the
vehicles.
Patreon.
It is, yeah, the Baneblade is dope. 2 reasons is I did a little bit of kit bashing. I threw the big flag and the sword on him up there.
Yep.
So I
Drive me closer.
Yeah, I inspired myself with the
Well,
drive me
he did-
closer.
Well,
flag
that
and hit
too,
me with my
like,
sword beam.
The fact that you just like showed up with it one day.
And that
Oh
was,
my
that's
God,
the other reason, is
overnight.
the fact that I painted it, and I agreed. I summoned a Baneblade literally out of nowhere. These
great.
guys had no idea, and it showed up fully painted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I think
Kevin
that
DM'd me
fully
like 2 days
painted.
before that. He's like, dude, look what I got. I was like, don't tell the guys.
That-
Don't tell the guys. Just bring it.
I was like, I should keep this a secret, right?
I
You were like, no,
think
it's
that-
better as a secret.
I think that rolls real good into our last question here. And Iqbard, you've got the last question, and that is, what is the fastest unit you have built and painted? Think you just answered it.
Yeah.
And what is the slowest? So my fastest was getting that first 500 points ready for the crusade. That first crusade we did that we have to continue at some point. I got 500 Eldar up and painted. They're Craft World units, and I've been replacing them with all of my dinosaurs and my kit bashing now. But I actually have bikes, vehicles, everything, and I painted it in a week. I stripped, reassembled, reposed, and repainted. Took a week vacation in Arizona, and that's all I did.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
My slowest is any other fucking thing I work on.
That's fair. That's very fair.
My group project I've been working on for 2 fucking years.
Yes. For me, my slowest has probably got to be so I stripped and repainted the first model I ever got, the one that my mom got me that I blacked out to. I stripped him and repainted him,
Blackout
and I
Marine?
probably painted him for like 6 or 7
Blackout
hours.
Marine.
And he's not even that well painted. I tried so hard to spend as much time as I could on him, so it took me about 6 or 7 hours to paint him.
Make that real good.
I can post him, and you guys can take a look.
Yeah, we'll post all of these, by the way.
The fastest was probably going to have to be the 120 boys that I painted. If I were to break it down to one boy, I probably painted them in, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes for a good speed paint.
Yeah.
Feels like a good.
10 minutes for 120 boys. That's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
Fastest, I would say, would be my Remora drones.
Yep.
Yeah, they
I
look
have
good.
They look fucking cool as shit.
I have 2 Remora drones. I did that in about 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Nice.
black
And that was built and paint.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah,
that was both,
impressive.
and that was both of them. And that took me about 45 because building them was literally like 3 pieces and 2 of them clip on.
The boys I got were all practically put together because I bought them used. So
yeah, these were boxes of bits they're the normal bits, but they're Forge World. So they're resin bits. The only thing that had been done is that the excess like garbage was cut off.
All the flashing.
Yeah. And it sucks because I was gonna say the Porphyron, but I didn't paint the Porphyron. The Porphyron though, I built that in 2 days. Yeah. And base coated.
And those knights are insane. They got a lot of
I'd
parts.
say the slowest one though would have to be right now my Castigator.
You're still working on it, right?
I still haven't even touched it.
Is that the one that I did the Medusa lower half for you?
No.
Okay.
No, the Castigator is the one I did the green crackle paint.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
so okay. that's why it's also taken me forever. It's because I built it. It was built quickly, but the paint is just taking me forever.
We're going on 2 hours, guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So mine, as previously stated, fastest would be that Baneblade that I cranked out in 48 hours from the time I opened the box to basically until the time it hit the field, and it was great. The reaction was great. Coming in at a really close second was I built a what was the Tau battle suit for you?
Oh, the
Arvarna. I cranked that out pretty fast, considering the fact that I didn't have instructions and it's a Forge World model.
Yep.
I knocked my Arvarna off the shelf 2 weeks ago and broke it to a point where it's not replaceable.
So I spent a good couple times just kind of like laying out all pieces and trying to dry fit it together a little bit with like half pieced together instructions. But then I banged it out in like a solid like 2 days. Like once I like dedicated.
I think that's still one of my slowest ones because it's not painted yet and it's still not quite done building. But it's still got like the little bits left.
From the time that I started, like
from what you did was amazing. It was just like
I think Igbar's talking about like collectively the time that you put in painting it. Not so much like, oh, it took me 3 years to paint this. Like no, like collectively it took me like 8 hours to paint this.
Definitely.
And then but as a kind of joke, I still haven't built my big knight. I bought like a year ago. It's still sitting on sprue.
If it's still in the box, it doesn't count.
Right.
Because in that case, I fucking win.
I do have 2 armigers that the main reason I haven't finished the armigers, they're sitting there primed, is because I ran out of primer for other stuff. And I like to paint, like, I'm not just going to paint 2 armigers and then not paint like a bunch of other stuff that needs to be painted still.
Right.
Like I'm just going to do it all. I'm going to sit down and do a bunch of it.
That's fair.
Because I got to like set up my paint space.
Yeah,
you don't have dedicated.
That is something I would like to talk about when we do a podcast on paint.
Like specifically
paint
on
space, your hobby space,
hobby space, paint space, build space, whatever you want to call it. You have to have one, and we'll definitely get in depth about that another episode.
Yeah. Well, we definitely ran a little bit over, but hopefully this is a treat for you guys. Well, all my little ChemRats, this has been another pirate broadcast, but it's time we wrap it all up. If you want to connect with us, our Patreon is live and we are working to get extra content up and available monthly. If you would like to join our Hive gang and become a 4-armed rat, you can find us at patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. As we mentioned earlier, our first 2 patrons, our first 2 4-armed rats are DeFeo and Ickbard. Love you guys. Thank you very much. You'll get a shout out in the end of our podcasts, and there are some other perks. So go over and check that stuff out. Speaking of, one of our local 4-armed rats, Ickbard, has started to do some painting commissions. You can connect with him either through our Discord community or directly through him via Instagram at Ickbard or email, which is peninsulaminaturespainting@gmail.com. As always, I drop all of the direct links and all of the spellings into the show notes. An update on the Hive Project, as Marky brought up earlier, we now have an official Hive name, and we started to work on some of the details of the Hive itself, including adding our second Hive gang, the Nutty Jays. If you'd like to get a little bit more involved in that project, get in contact with us and join our Discord. That's where we do all the work and planning.
Discord, the ultimate way to get in contact with all of your Grimdark Gaming and Under the Hive Madness crew.
Yeah. So we would like to go ahead and announce that we are in the Innsmouth Hive.
I thought you were calling it. I thought you were calling it Innismouth.
It's Innsmouth.
Innsmouth.
But it's not in its mouth, which is what you want me to say.
I was like,
what you want me to say.
in his mouth.
Mark wants me to say it as dirty as possible.
In his mouth.
So is that like fitness?
Fitness in the there's a fitness.
Oh, damn, I fell for it. God damn
Mark,
You fell for your own.
What are you talking about, Kevin? I walked right into it.
It smells like Updog in here.
Yeah, so join us in figuring out more details to Hive Innsmouth. If you're wondering, the 4 names that we had put up in our poll were all inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, as the title of the podcast itself, Under the Hive of Madness, is based on Under the Mountains of Madness. You can find all of our social media links on our link tree, which is linktree/Under the Hive. Reach out to us with either your lore, your other hobby questions, or anything else via email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or jimdarkgaming@gmail.com. This is ChemRat Radio 665.66 UHMR, reminding you once again to keep a las pistol or auto gun close at hand whenever you cross through Nutty J's territory. These maniacs are